Good morning, and thank you for joining us on today's webinar topic, Maximizing Your Budget and Streamline the Procurement Process with BuyBoard. My name is James Collins. I'm the Senior Director of Business Development here at CSBA, and I will be facilitating today's webinar. We will be recording today's webinar, and everyone will receive a link to the recording. If you have any questions for our panelists, please submit it using the Q&A function, but not the chat function, please. We will go through all of your questions at the end of the webinar. If you have any questions after the close of the webinar, you can always email us at csba@csba.org. At this time, I would like to introduce our presenter for today's discussion, David Ricketts, the National Director of BuyBoard. And at this time, I will turn it over to David. David?
James, thank you. And good morning, everyone. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about procurement and the BuyBoard Purchasing Cooperative and how it can assist your school districts in procuring things that your school district is going to need. I have a quick little funny slide here, but next time you see your procurement team, thank them. They do yeoman's work every single day, and this little kind of funny slide is, in reality, your procurement team has a lot to consider when making purchases for your school districts, and the BuyBoard can help them and take some of the load off of their plate. And today we're going to review some of the procurement process and see how the BuyBoard can help your school districts. But again, some of the things they have to deal with are, and what they do is a lot of yeoman's work for the school district. The BuyBoard National Purchasing Cooperative is a cooperative. And what does that really mean? A cooperative is folks coming together to aggregate demand to get lower pricing from vendors. The BuyBoard itself is a co-op in the old school definition of a cooperative. It's governed by a 9-member board of directors made up of folks from the cooperative itself. And what does that really mean? From a cooperative perspective, it leverages the power of nationwide volume. So the prices are often lower than the individual school districts can get on their own. So the power of many of the cooperative are bringing that cost savings to the individual school districts around the country and in the state of California. The BuyBoard National Purchasing Cooperative is a free governmental-based national cooperative. It is a comprehensive purchasing tool for your local school districts to use to reduce the purchasing costs on products and services they're buying today. The BuyBoard has a long history, and I'll go into a little bit of that in a minute. But we have a high-level approach to our business, our members, and our vendors that set us apart. And again, as a public agency, which I'll get into in a little bit, we're here to lessen the burden of government to help drive down costs and make the procurement process as efficient as we can for our school districts, as all the while helping them be audit compliant. And at the same time, purchases made through the BuyBoard means that your school district is helping the California School Board Association that supports you and at large the K-12 market in the state of California. So the goal is to provide members with competitive pricing, a trusted and transparent procurement process, and also reduce the administrative costs that your school districts have. And so the cooperative awards vendors that have gone through the competitive procurement process. That in turn helps them with their procurement requirements. A few highlights of the cooperative itself. The BuyBoard has been around a long time. It started shortly after interlocal cooperation became law across the country, and it gave birth to the National Purchasing Cooperative, the BuyBoard. As I mentioned earlier, the BuyBoard is a lead agency or public agency controlling the procurement process and life cycle of all of its contracts. It gains access, our members, to a wide range of vendors with pricing based on those national volume levels. And what I mean by a wide range of vendors, we have 86 different contracts and over 1,500 different vendors that are available to members in the state of California. Public agency that we are helps provide, again, funding to enhance California's public education system through the support of the California School Board Association. A lot of those 1,500 awarded vendors come from the outreach of that we do during the contracting process for MWBEs, hubs, local and regional vendors that we encourage to participate in our contracting process. They still have to be competitive when it comes to an award, but we want to make sure that as a national cooperative, we are as inclusive of a cooperative that we can be when it comes to MWBEs and hubs and those local and regional vendors, because they live there, they pay taxes there, they go to school there. So we want to make sure that the BuyBoard is, again, as inclusive as we can possibly make it. And some of the things that your purchasing team has to consider when making purchases for your school district that the BuyBoard and its contracts and its awarded vendors can help alleviate some of the stress and tension off of these folks. They have to look at the value, quality versus cost, quantity, the sourcing of the product, the timing of the delivery of the product. Pricing is certainly going to be a heavyweight. Service after the purchase of the product to take into consideration, the delivery of the product and service itself. So all of those things have to be taken into consideration when evaluating the product and services that your procurement staff is looking for. And some of the processes they use and some of the tools they use are these. So from right to left is informal to very formal. Your purchasing team can go out into the market and just simply get pricing or quotes from various different vendors for the product or services they need. And going again around the curve, requests for qualifications, they're simply going out into the market and seeing what vendors can qualify to support whatever product or service the school district is needing. They can do a request for proposal, an RFP, if you will, out into the market, an informal bid, which is one step below a formalized bid, which is where they're putting together a scope of work, advertising it, having the vendors come back with their submittals, scoring and grading them, and then bringing them back to the board and determining which one is the best solution for the school district. So those are all things that they also have to take into consideration, which the BuyBoard, again, can help alleviate some of that. And as far as some of the rules and regulations that they have to follow, there's a lot. And so as an awarded vendor, and the contracts that we provide can, again, help with some of these because they are compliant within the state of California. So they have to look at the state statutes. Is it compliant with that when they're looking to make purchases? If there are city charters and rules and regulations under that, city codes, they have to abide by those, county codes that may apply, federal regulations that also apply, and oh yeah, your own agency or your own school district's rules and regulations. So there's a lot to take into consideration when making purchases for your school district. And again, the BuyBoard can help eliminate some of these things that because all the contracts have already been competitively bid, can help your procurement staff with those. So as a member of the National Purchasing Cooperative, we bring compliance to the table from those requirements, helps make the school district certainly much more efficient when it comes to purchasing. It certainly saves the administration time and costs when it comes to all of these contracts, which are super time consuming and expensive. The BuyBoard is never going to take the place of the procurement staff of having to do all of the contracts. That's simply not its role. But it certainly can help alleviate for a majority of those or some of those. And so it helps in taking, again, some of the load off of your procurement staff's plates. As I mentioned, from a diversity perspective, we have a lot of diverse selection and choice of vendors, whether you're looking for product and services for technology or instruction material, and I'll get into a little bit of that. But there's a diverse vendor base. We have over 400 MWBEs, as I mentioned earlier as well. So those are certainly available to the school district if they have hard or soft targets around those. We have an online request for quote tool embedded in our website, which as a member you'll have access to. So if the school district needs their procurement folks to get 3 quotes, they can certainly use that tool within the BuyBoard to get those quotes to meet that requirement. And although they need to get those quotes, they're already working within a well-vetted pool of contracted vendors already. So they know who they're working and trying to get quotes from. So at the end of the day, the procurement staff will not have to go through the preparing of the specifications, the advertising of the bids, reviewing the proposals, awarding the bids, and trying to defend them as well. So there's, again, all of that can be taken care of by using any of the contracts and awarded vendors that the BuyBoard has. And what are those contracts that are available? This is just a very small sample of contracts that are available to the K through 12 folks. It is certainly not the entire scope of contracts that are available. But if you're looking for instruction material or furniture for the schools, library books, uniforms and accessories, music, instruments, school buses, if you're looking for artificial turf for a football field or lighting, or maybe some bleachers, we certainly have contracts for those as well. And we also have anything that's going to help facilitate the repair and operations for the buildings. So we have all of those. So the BuyBoard will help in contracts and supporting vendors around anything that happens in the classroom with the kiddos, but also the maintenance of all the buildings as well. So there's a lot of contracts that are available with the BuyBoard and its awarded vendors. And as a member of the cooperative, you will have access to that database that I mentioned. So once you become a member, you will have a username and password that you will set up. And with that, you can search the database for the vendors, their product, their pricing, all the contract documents. That's where all of this lives. So if you need a contract for a specific vendor, that's there. If you need all of the documents that were in support of that award, the original RFP, the tabulation, any of the scorecards, any of that information is going to be held and housed in this database. It's a terrific searchable database and a great resource tool for your procurement staff to use when they're looking for product or services in the BuyBoard. And this is what it kind of looks like. So you're going to search, there's a couple of different ways to search in the database for product and services. There's an open search field. It's text driven, so you can type in, for instance, Chevy Tahoe, and anything related to Chevy Tahoe will pop up. If you know who your specific vendor of choice is already, you can type in that in an open field on our database, and their tile will pop up. And that behind their tile is the awarded contract, all their product, their pricing, all of that stuff is loaded into the system for your review. It's not the entire list of everything that they may have, but it is going to be a defined list that they gave us during the contracting process. But the awarded contract typically takes care of most everything that awarded vendor will have. So it's often catalog driven as well. And if you not sure exactly who the vendor is in that particular case, like Howard Technology, but you know you're looking for something technology driven, you can come into that other open field under contracts and type in technology, and the technology contract will present itself. You click on it, and all of the awarded vendors will then become available for your review in the database under technology contract. And so it's really a super helpful resource tool as you're trying to find a supporting vendor for your purchase. And the other thing you can find in here are the report under the report tab. It's certainly the vendor list. If you want the entire list of vendors, you can certainly export that for your own review and use. but it's going to, again, include instructional material, that technology that I mentioned, maintenance, repair, and operations for the buildings themselves, the athletic piece, the outdoors, band, uniforms, and all that stuff certainly are all available in the BuyBoard and under the BuyBoard contracts themselves. So as a member of the co-op, how do you reach out and how do you start that procurement process? It's pretty easy. All of these, again, vendors have been awarded a contract through the BuyBoard. So you're going to work with them as if you had awarded the contract yourself. You're just working under the umbrella of the BuyBoard contract instead. So you're going to reach out to that vendor that you want to buy something from. You're going to let them know what you need. They're going to send you over a quote. You're going to cut that purchase order to them. They're going to deliver the product or service to you, and then you're going to be invoiced by them. So it's pretty straightforward. The only thing that the co-op needs at the end of the day is some sort of record transaction document, whether that's that record-only copy of that purchase order, or maybe even that invoice that they had sent you. And that's really for your state audit trail. So it's pretty straightforward and pretty simple process to use any of the contracts or those awarded vendors. It's really that simple. So in just kind of recapping the National Purchasing Cooperative, it's a legal pathway to make purchases. All the contracts have been competitively procured and done. All of it's been documented for your audit trail, certainly compliant from a procurement perspective, because we as a public agency have to follow the same rules and regulations you do. So there's a very strict procurement guidelines that we follow when doing the contracting. So all of that has been met. So the advantages, again, it's free to join the cooperative. It's certainly going to lower the cost of those internal costs that you may have by bringing, again, the power of the nationwide footprint that the BuyBoard has. The RFPs are going to simply be reduced by reaching out to the number of vendors and contracts that we have. It's going to certainly streamline the procurement process, simply because your staff doesn't have to go through that whole lengthy process of awarding a contract themselves. They can simply jump into the pool of awarded vendors and pick the one that makes the most sense for the school district. And all, again, as I mentioned, because of the local flavor of our contracts. And again, we multiple award under our contracts, which means that, again, we're looking for those local and regional and hub and MWBE vendors that are out there to competitively compete along with everyone else. But that just makes us very unique in the cooperative space. Most other cooperatives will singularly award under a contract, trying to find the largest vendor that will have the biggest footprint. As I mentioned earlier, we don't. Again, we're a public agency, so we don't have investors. We are here to help and support our members. And so we can look to those local and regional vendors that they are looking for. And so we can help try and get them under a contract. And it's time consuming and expensive. But again, as a cooperative, a public agency cooperative, we can put a little bit more resources into, again, that realm and help our not only our MWBE friends, but the school district in leveraging them. How do you become a member? It's super easy to do. You can go to buyboard.com under National and join, and you can fill out the information. It'll take a couple of minutes. If your board needs approval, you'll certainly need to take that to them for that. But other than that, it's going to take a couple of minutes. And once that's complete, the online form, and you submit that, and then you'll get your username and log in to the BuyBoard. We will also be at the AEC coming up in November. We'll be in booth number 710, and we'll also be doing a table talk on the trade floor from 10:30 to 11:15. So come see us. We can visit a little bit more about the BuyBoard and how it can help your school district through their procurement process. Your local contact is Doug Williams. He's actually on a plane home from California as we speak. But he will be your point of contact for any questions or follow-up or help with the website or looking for any of those contracts or vendors that you might want to leverage. So with that, I'll turn it back over to James. James, I think you're on mute.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. So I have 5 questions, David, and we'll go through those in order here. But the first question I have is, do your bid contracts include federal procurement language to assist in meeting federal expenditure requirements?
So it depends on what those federal guidelines are. I'm not an attorney, so let me first say that. But there's also all different kinds of language in the different grants and that sort of thing. But if you're talking about the 200 CFRs, the Code of Federal Regulations, most often the contracts that we have meet those obligations, but every grant coming from the federal government can have slightly different language in it. So the generic answer is yes, but check with those specific guidelines.
I think you may have addressed this already, but we'll ask it. How can we find out if vendors we are currently working with are on the BuyBoard? And if not, how do we direct them to join?
Yeah, good question. So you can go onto our website and pull down the list of California vendors. They're all there. So you can go to buyboard.com, go to national under resources and pick vendor by state. And you can see the whole long laundry list of vendors that are available to California today. And if they are there, then you can go directly to them as a member of the cooperative, and you have to become a member first in order to gain access to their contract. But once you're there, you can go directly to them. If they're a local, regional, or an MWB or somebody else that you want to have participate in the program that isn't there today, or even somebody else that may be on a larger scale, they can simply go in and register with us on the BuyBoard website as well. Registering just means, hey, I'm out here. Please send me more information when my contract comes up for bid. Our contracts are for 3 years in duration. So 6-7 months in advance of our contract expiring is when we will release our RFP out into the street. And then they will be notified of that. And so they can then respond back and go through the competitive procurement process that way.
Got it. That's a good question. Why is this the first time we are being offered this service in California?
So it's not the first time, it's always been available. But this is the first time that we've had a relationship with the California School Board Association and in support of them and the K through 12 market in the state of California. But the BuyBoard has been available to any local or state government across the United States since 1998.
Awesome. So CDE would approve a vendor from BuyBoard versus executing a formal bid process, correct?
Ask me that again, James. I'm sorry.
It says, so CDE would approve a vendor from BuyBoard versus executing a formal bid process, correct?
So the California Department of Education would approve it. So the BuyBoard is a public agency, has done all the contracting already. That as a public agency, that gives us the legal authority to do all the contracting on behalf of our members. I'm not sure what role the California Department of Education would have in that, as far as their approval or not. If it means anything, the California GSA is a member of the cooperative, but that's as far as I know, James.
Okay. Confirming sign up is free. Are there any additional fees to use at all the features? So basically, sign up free. Is there any additional fees to use the features?
There is not. There's, as a public agency, this is a free service to any state or local government in the United States to join or to use at any time. So you can use it as much as you want to, as many do, or if you need a project or two done, you can certainly use it for that as well.
Perfect. What about small rural districts with little to no storage for bulk purchases? Are there still cost savings for small rural districts?
So the answer is yes. Oftentimes, even more so, because of the large volume that we can drive and the prices associated with that. The smaller school districts, mid-sized school districts can certainly take advantage of that. And you don't necessarily need to, quote unquote, buy in bulk in order to receive those prices. They're already done on a contracted rate. So you're already receiving a price that's most often more aggressive than you can typically get on your own, even if you're buying a small quantity.
Got it. I'm going to try to combine these two questions, so bear with me here. So are there government grants or additional funding opportunities we can use to pay for these services? And is this related to ESSER funding? So essentially, can we use that funding to make these purchases within our districts?
Yes. So the ESSER funds, again, not an attorney, but most often based on the 2 CFR 200 rules, you can. Under the ESSER rules. Under the CARES Act, there's a whole long laundry list of things that fall in the scope of what the CARES Act would allow you to do. Does that answer the questions, James?
Yeah, I actually have a comment. This is pretty neat. So I have used BuyBoard to purchase construction components to be owner provided, contractor installed. I appreciate BuyBoard having contracts to help expedite projects. So somebody's already been using it, super efficient, and they were able to see the value of the actual agreement here. So
That's true.
Next question, are there any bid limitations in the state of California?
Bid limitations. So are there any limits on how much you can purchase under a contract? I'm maybe paraphrasing that. The answer is no. You can buy as much as you want to spend.
Got it. See if I can understand this one too. Would we have to piggyback contracts on a per contract basis, or does joining the co-op give us access to all contracts?
Great question. So nope, you can. Once you're a member, you have access to all of the awarded vendors. And they're all in that database that I shared with you. It's terrific.
I don't see any other questions. Let me just double check, make sure. I think we've covered it all. Thanks, David. So I'll close it out. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and thank you to our presenter, David. David, we really appreciate the partnership, and I know that both of our entities have worked really hard to get this off the ground, and we appreciate everything you've already been doing in the state, and now we have a more of a formal agreement. This is actually really exciting. So CSBA is dedicated to providing up-to-date resources to school board members. To view our recent webinars, please be sure to check out our YouTube page at youtube.com/CSBA video. If you're interested in attending future CSBA webinars, please go to our website at www.csba.org/webinars to register for upcoming webinars. Again, many thanks to you, David. And with that, thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.